Merry Christmas, everybody. This is Being God's Obedient Servant channel. Uh, Today we're still in Genesis. Going to be doing chapters 39 and 40 together. Both of them only have about 20 something verses in each, so it'll be a total of 40 something. So we should be able to do this easily within the 30-minute time frame that I'm allotted through YouTube. I don't know why. If I do 31 minutes, it doesn't load audio. So, um, but yeah, today's lesson, as I said before, we went through one of the brother Judah. Kind of went through Joseph being cast into slavery. Then we did a little story of Judah, one of his brothers. And now we're jumping right back into Joseph. So this is chapter 39, going into verse 1. This is pretty much going to be a straightforward chapter. We're just pretty much going to read through it. It's going to be a little bit of information in there, but um, you'll see some stuff where we have a problem today with things that false allegations from women against men. That's in here against Joseph and stuff. So it's like, they had a problem thousands of years ago. We still have the problem today. So I don't know what it is about some women. If they don't get their way or they ain't happy, they just want to ruin someone's life. It's been going on for a very long time. So I said we'll get to that part here. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on in here and start reading. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hands. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him an overseer over his house, and all that he had he put into his hand. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer of his house, and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had save the bread which he did eat, and Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, "Lie with me." So here's the woman that's going to do false allegations against him. It's a wife of another man, and it happened to be his master. So, this is a very sticky situation here. Continue on, verse 8. But he refused and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath to my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? So pause there for a second. So you see that that he's already saying that it would be unfair to do this against his master, but also he also knew what God put on his heart. We haven't had the Ten Commandments yet or anything else, but even Joseph knew that it was wickedness and a sin against God to commit adultery. So a lot of these things we're going to be seeing that we've already seen, talking about false allegations, murder, now adultery, coveting, envy, jealousy, and all these other things we've already covered. It's going to be part of the Ten Commandments. So, and honoring God is the primary thing that we are to do. So even here he says, how can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? He's more worried about God than anyone else, and that's how, as said, being an obedient servant of the Lord, that's how we are to be. It's like we love God, God loves us, but also we don't want to hurt God. It's when we sin against God, it hurts God. So, and doesn't make him happy at all. So that's why we're to do all that we can to stay away from sin as much as possible. I mean, it's impossible since we have a sin nature, but as long as we're trying, that's what God, admires the most. So I'm going to continue on, verse 10. And it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her to lie by her, or to be with her. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within. So if you don't understand that, there's no witnesses right now. And she caught him by his garment, saying, Lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand, and fled, and got him out. And it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand, and he was fled forth, that she called unto the men of her house, and spake unto them, saying, See, he hath brought in a Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. So we'll go back to that verse 12 part, says where he said, and he got him out. This is a lesson to all of us, that if we're in a sinful situation or anything that's going to be harmful to us, or going to cause harm to God, that we are to just get out of the situation and leave. It's better. That's the best way to deal with a lot of sins and stuff, is just not even be in the situation. And if you find yourself getting in a situation, especially accidentally, get out. Flee. Flee if you have to, and just get out of there. That's the best way. Verse 15 now. And it came to pass, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me, and fled, and got him out. And she laid up his garment by her until his Lord came home. And she spake unto him according to these words, saying, The Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came in unto me to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me, and fled out. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, After this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. So here it is also. The other lesson we learned, that when you bear false witness, when you lie about someone else and stuff, you can create a wrath situation. And when you create wrath in somebody, it's great anger. I mean, we kind of know this, but this is one thing that, later on in the Bible, you're going to be seeing that, when you sin and you cause someone else to sin, you're guilty of your sin plus that sin. And, the master here, he's going to have his own problems with God. But of course, most of this in God's plan, because God knew it was going to happen. But, he's going to have his own thing when he's getting judged by God about this, Now he got angry without finding out the truth. This is a big problem we have today, where people just want to jump to anger instead of find out the truth. You listen to one person, you take their words for it, and that's it. And you don't listen to nothing else. So God wants all his people and stuff to have a cool head about things. And, it ain't really, to call someone a liar, to say, I want to hear all sides and everything else. And this is how we have, supposed to have a proper judicial system and, proper judgment and everything else, to where all sides can be heard. And it comes from stuff like this. So, continue on now, verse 20. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph, and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison. And whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. So you're already seeing a pattern here that Joseph is being blessed by God. And, it's when he says, showing favor in thy sight, in the sight, it's God's helping, giving a part unto people to be kind to Joseph. He doesn't want people to be mean to Joseph, but Joseph is in a bad situation because now he went from being a slave to now a prisoner in a dungeon. But instead of being treated bad in either situation, he was put in charge. So this is teaching him to also be a master, even though he's also a servant. So there's many things going on here all at the same time. So continue on, verse 23 and the end of chapter 39. The keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him, and that which he did, the Lord made it to prosper. Chapter 40. And it came to pass after these things that the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord, the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was wroth against two of his officers, against the chief of the butlers, and against the chief of the bakers. And he put them inward in the house of the captain of the guard into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued a season in ward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in the prison. And Joseph came in unto them in the morning, and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his lord's house, saying, Wherefore look ye so sadly today? And they said unto him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me them, I pray you. So, here we go. Joseph already knows that he's an interpreter of dreams, but also he says the interpretations are God. So God, he knows, he automatically gives God the grace for this. He says, this is God's doing. He's not trying to brag about himself, say, look what I can do. He says, look what God can do. And that's a hard thing that, this is where a lot of us people fail at in life, because we start getting a little bit prideful about the good things we can do, and we forget that it's God that's through us, or it's the gift that God gave us for us to do things, like me being a good mechanic and a builder and this, that, and the other. Before my spinal cord injury from the military pretty much took me out of the game of being able to do the work. I was very good and very talented in it and stuff like that. So, and sometimes I had to catch myself and saying, hey, look how good I am, and I can't tend to forget that God gave me those talents. So I had to keep always checking myself about stuff like that, and a lot of people fall into this. So, but yeah, so here he's like Joseph always makes sure he gives God the glory of it. That's it's God's doing, not his. So continue on. And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph, and said unto him, In my dream, behold, a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches, and it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said unto him, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thine head and restore thee unto thy place, and thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand after the former manner, when thou wast his butler. But think on me when it shall be well with thee, and show kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also have I done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I also was in my dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head. And in the uppermost basket there was of all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh, and the birds did eat them out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is their interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head from off thee, and shall hang thee on a tree, and the birds shall eat thy flesh from off thee. And it came to pass the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgat him. So this is the end of this teaching, this reading and teaching. So there's important stuff in there, but I said this is the life of Joseph. We'll be getting, he will be brought out of the dungeon in due time, but of course, and but as I said, this is it's a good story. I love the story of Joseph. So go ahead and end this one here. So we're not even up to 20 minutes. So we've got 2 chapters read. But hope you enjoyed the reading, and we'll continue on. So today is Christmas of 2021. And so I hope everybody has a great Christmas, and I should be getting either the next chapters or the next reading and stuff, should be getting that in before New Year's. So once again, hope you have a good, blessed week. Safe travels to those that are traveling, and good night.